Hello students, welcome to AIMS India online classes. This is a chemistry session. Here we are discussing about the chapter chemical bonding. In the earlier sessions we discussed about different kinds of chemical bondings and their properties we have seen. In this session we are going to see about a practice sheet related to the chapter. That is practice sheet 1, which includes conceptual understanding questions and single correct answer type questions. Okay, let us start the practice sheet. First, let us go through the conceptual understanding type questions. See the first among those, sp overlapping is present in. So the chemical bond in which two atoms are combined by overlapping s orbital of one atom and p orbital of another atom is represented as sp overlapping sigma bond. Observe in which molecule this kind of overlapping exists. That is s orbital of one atom and p orbital of another atom to be overlapped to form covalent bond there. If you observe here, bromine molecule, both the bromine atoms they contain vacant p orbitals. So when these two atoms bond together, they overlap their p orbitals. So you can say here pp overlapping in case of bromine molecule. If we see in case of hydrogen molecule, each hydrogen atom has vacant s orbitals, half-filled s orbitals. So here sigma bond is formed by the ss overlapping. What about in case of oxygen molecule? Both the oxygen atoms they form two covalent bonds between the two oxygen atoms by pp overlapping. Because both the oxygen atoms they have unpaired electrons in their p orbitals. But if you see in case of HF molecule, hydrogen has vacant or half-filled atomic orbital, that is s orbital, whereas fluorine has vacant p orbital or half-filled p orbital. When these two atoms approach each other, they overlap s and p orbitals each other and hence results in the formation of sigma bond. Now you can say sp overlapping is found in HF molecule. Okay, next one. Shape of molecule is decided by. Okay, the geometry of a molecule is decided by only sigma bonds present around the central atom. Okay, sigma bonds decides the shape or geometry of a molecule. Pi bonds are having no influence on that. The number of bonds between any two atoms are considered as single while predicting the shape. So sigma bonds decide the shape of the molecule. Next one, the orbital overlapping is maximum in. So orbital overlappings are of different kinds. We have seen already SS overlapping, SP overlapping and PP overlapping. Out of these all, as the extent of overlapping increases, the strength of the bond increases. So the overlapping extent will be maximum in case of PP overlapping. So the order can be shown like this. SS overlapping is somewhat less than the SP overlapping. This is somewhat less than the pp overlapping. So p orbitals they overlap or they merge one into other in greater extent. So we can say pp overlapping is maximum than the remaining all. Now see in which of the following molecules pp overlapping is observed. That we can say as the correct answer. Their overlapping of atomic orbitals will be maximum. If you see Cl2 molecule, both the chlorine atoms they have unpaired electrons in their p orbitals. So when they combine, they overlap their p orbitals each. So we can find here pp overlapping in case of Cl2. And if you so this will be the correct answer actually because pp overlapping is occurring in Cl2 molecule which occurs at maximum extent. Okay, now if you see the remaining also, hydrogen iodide. In this hydrogen has vacant half-filled s orbital which overlaps with half-filled p orbital of iodine. So we can say Hi contains sp overlapping. In the similar way, HCl also sp overlapping. Even HBr also. sp overlapping. Only pp overlapping is found in Cl2 molecule, in which overlapping of atomic orbitals in maximum extent. Okay, next one. Which combination of atoms can form a polar covalent bond? What does mean by polar covalent bond? The covalent bond in which electron pair, shared pair of electron is not equally shared. So that will be done when two atoms with a different electronegatives if they combine. So atoms of different elements or atoms with different electronegativities if they participate in covalent bond formation, then the atom with more electronegativity pulls the pair of electrons towards it and hence results in the formation of a polar covalent bond. Observe once the given molecules in which two different atoms are participating in covalent bond, or the molecule in which two atoms with electronegativities difference are present, that will be polar covalent bond. Observe first one, hydrogen atoms H and H. Both are having same electronegativity. So here the bond formed will be non-polar covalent bond. And if you observe here HBr, hydrogen and bromine, they form a covalent bond. But here hydrogen is less electronegative than bromine. That's why boron, as being more electronegative, it pulls the pair of electrons towards it slightly. That results a polar covalent bond. So HBr contains polar covalent bond. What about N and N? Both the nitrogen atoms, they form a triple bond between them. So that will be non-polar covalent bond. Whereas if you say Na and Br, it is metallic element which is ready to lose electron. Bromine is a non-metallic element which is ready to accept electrons. So transfer of electron occurs here, results in the formation of ionic bond. So no question of covalent bond here. Ionic bond is formed in case of sodium and bromine. So only in case of H and Br, polar covalent bond can be formed. Next one. Which of the following pairs do not form a dative bond with each other? What is the condition to be formed a dative bond? One atom or a molecule should contain a lone pair of electrons on its central atom. At the same time, the another atom or molecule should have a vacant orbital to get octet still. When those two are combined, then the atom with the lone pair of electrons can donate to the other atom for sharing. Thus, they result in the formation of dative bond. Observe this here, NH3H plus. So here in the NH3, nitrogen has a lone pair of electrons, and here H plus has one vacant orbital. So they form a dative bond. What about water molecule and H plus ion? Here also oxygen has two lone pairs of electrons at the central atom oxygen in the water. H plus is having vacant orbital. So these two also results in the formation of a dative bond. And in case of NH3 and BF3, in NH3, central atom nitrogen has one lone pair of electrons on it, whereas in BF3, central atom boron has vacant orbital still to get octet. So these two also they form a dative bond. But hydrogen and chlorine molecules, they cannot participate in the dative bond formation because in the H2 molecule there is no vacant orbital yet. Already they are bonded, they have completed their duplet. Okay, so this is the molecule which do not form any dative bond. This is correct. H2 and Cl2, they do not form a dative bond. Next, H2O has higher boiling point than the corresponding hydrates like H2S, H2Se and H2Te. This is because water has specially one more kind of bonds which we call as hydrogen bonds. Because of the presence of hydrogen bonds between the water molecules, this water is having higher boiling point than the remaining hydrates of sixth group elements. Okay, that is because of hydrogen bonds existence between the water molecules. Next, Mobile electrons within bonding network best describes which type of bonding. So the mobile electrons and the positive ions at the middle represents metallic bonding. Okay, we observe mobile electrons in the metallic bond formation. Next, as the number of bonds increases between the two atoms, the bond length. So in between the two atoms, if the number of bonds increasing, then bond length decreases, because as number of bonds or as number of electron pairs shared between two atoms increases, though both the nuclei will be held strongly one to another, means they come close. As a result, bond length decreases. For example, if you see carbon carbon, if they bond with a single bond, they'll be far away. If they are bonded with a double bond, they come a little closer than the first case. If they form a triple bond, they come to a nearer distance and compared to the remaining two cases. As number of bonds increasing between two atoms, attractive power increases between those, and hence they come close. The results decrease in the bond length. Okay, next. Which of the following is a covalent compound? See, which of these representing a covalent compound? See the first one, the H2 molecule, which is formed between two non-metallic atoms. Generally, the bond formed between non-metals will be covalent. So, H2 has a covalent compound. It is a covalent, sorry, it is, it is a covalent compound. HCaO is an ionic compound, isn't it? KCl is also an ionic substance. Na2S, it is also an ionic substance. Only H2 is a covalent substance here. In H2, both are non-metallic atoms. Both will share a pair of electrons, results in the formation of a covalent bond between them. So H2 is correct answer. Next one. Silicon has 4 electrons in the outermost orbit. So in forming the bonds. So how does it participate in the bond formation, as it has 4 valence electrons? So the elements which are having 1 or 2 or 3 valence electrons, generally they donate these electrons in the bond formation, thus they form positive ions. And the elements which are having 5 or 6 or 7 electrons in their valence shell, they are ready to accept electrons and they form negative ions in the bond formation. But the atoms with the 4 electrons, they cannot gain or they cannot lose electrons. Thus, they participate in the bond formation generally by sharing of these electrons. So one of them is a silicon also. It also has 4 electrons in its valence shell. So in the bond formation, it will share these electrons with other atoms, and hence it becomes stable by getting octet configuration. Silicon, carbon, these are having 4 electrons in their valence shell, hence they share electrons in the bond formation. Okay, next, dative bonds do not present in. See, in which molecule there is no dative bond? NaCl has one dative bond in NH4 plus ion formation. SO2 forms one dative bond with one oxygen, and it forms one more double bond with one other oxygen. In case of H2S also, there is double bond or dative bond between the H2 hydrogen and sulfur. Whereas if you see in case of HBr, there is only one covalent bond, which is not a dative bond. Okay, HBr does not contain dative bond. Next one, the bond formed between a Lewis acid and a Lewis base. So here, Lewis acid means the atom or ion which is ready, or a molecule which is ready to accept a pair of electrons is considered as Lewis acid, and the ion or molecule or a atom which is ready to donate a pair of electrons is called Lewis base. So between these two, generally a dative bond will be formed, coordinate covalent bond will be formed between the Lewis acid and Lewis base. Okay, next one. Now let us say single correct answer type questions. See the first among those. Bond formation is always. Yes, by the bond formation, atoms they come to lower energy state by releasing certain amount of energy. And hence, bond formation is always exothermic. That releases energy and the system goes to least energetic or most stable state. So it is always exothermic. Next, electrovalent compound among the following. What does it mean by electrovalent compound? Ionic compound. That is compound formed by the transfer of electrons between the atoms. That is called electrovalent compound. See, H2O is a covalent compound, carbon dioxide is a covalent compound, even HCl is also covalent compound because in these three, sharing of electrons is taking place. Only in case of calcium oxide, electron transfer occurs and thus results in the formation of electrovalent compound. Okay, next. Formation of pi bond. What happens by the formation of pi bond? Actually, this pi bond will be formed only after the formation of sigma bond. So it is one of the additional bond between the two atoms. As the number of bonds between the atoms increases, bond length decreases. So formation of pi bond decreases the bond length as it is additional bond between already existing bonded atoms. Okay, next. A double bond is made up of. So if any two atoms are forming any bond, first they form a sigma bond. And if it is a double bond, it should contain one sigma bond, remaining bond will be pi bond. Now we can say a double bond consists of one sigma and one pi bond. Where it is one sigma and one pi bond. This is correct. Next one. Number of sigma and pi bonds in carbon dioxide molecule. So here also you have to consider between any two atoms. One will be sigma bond, remaining additional bonds will be pi bonds. If you observe here, between carbon and oxygen there are two bonds. So one will be sigma bond and the other one will be pi bond. Here also in the same way, one sigma and one pi bond. So totally how many bonds are there here? Two sigma bonds and two pi bonds. Okay, this is correct. Next, number of electrons transferred from one atom to another atom during bond formation in aluminum nitride. So how many electrons are transferred from aluminum to nitrogen in the formation of aluminum nitride? To understand this, we have to know the electronic configuration of these atoms. We know atomic number of aluminum is 13 and its configuration is 2, 8, 3. So aluminum is having 3 electrons in its valence shell. It will be ready to lose those 3 electrons by the bond formation, hence attains octet configuration. If you see in case of nitrogen, its atomic number is 7 and its configuration is 2, 5. Sorry, 2, yes, 2, 5. It has still vacancy for 3 more electrons to become stable. So when these two atoms combine, aluminum loses 3 electrons. At the same time, nitrogen gains 3 electrons. Thus they form aluminum nitride. So how many electrons are transferred between aluminum and nitrogen here? 3 electrons. Okay. Next. Most of the ionic substances, here certain characteristics are mentioned, see, are non-electrolytes in molten state. No. Ionic compounds are electrolytes in the molten state. Have directional character? No. Ionic bonds are non-directional. Okay. And are soluble in polar solvents like water. Yes, ionic compounds are soluble into polar solvents, just like water. And if you see the next one, conduct electricity in solid state. No, in solid state, ions are held together with strong electrostatic forces. So because of that, they cannot conduct electricity in the solid state. Only one correct statement about ionic compounds is this. They are soluble in polar solvents like water. Okay, next one. A covalent bond is likely to be formed between two elements which have. So when a covalent bond is formed between atoms which are having similar electronegativities. If both the atoms are having similar electronegativities, then they form a covalent bond. Where it is here. atoms with the similar electronegativities, they would like to form covalent bond. Next, the covalency of hydrogen, chlorine, oxygen and nitrogen in their elementary molecules respectively. What is meant by covalency? The number of electron pairs shared by an element or an atom is called its covalency. If you observe hydrogen molecule, in the formation of hydrogen molecule, both the hydrogen atoms, they are sharing a pair of electrons. One pair of electrons are shared between two hydrogens. So its covalence is 1. If we see in case of chlorine also, both the chlorines, they share a pair of electrons between them in attaining stability. So as they are sharing one pair of electrons, here the covalency of chlorine also is considered as 1. If we see in case of oxygen, they share two pairs of electrons between two atoms. So the number of electron pairs shared here it is 2, hence its covalence is taken as 2. And in case of nitrogen molecule, both the nitrogen atoms share three pairs of electrons with each other. So here the covalence is considered as 3. Okay. Now see respectively 1, 1, 2, 3. Here it is here. This is correct answer. Okay. Next one. Two elements X and Y have the following configurations. The compound formed by the combination of X and Y. If you observe the configuration, X has two electrons in its valence shell. So generally it is a metal and it will be ready to lose these electrons and hence it forms X plus 2 ion readily. Isn't it? If we see in case of Y, it has totally 7 valence electrons. As it has 7 valence electrons, it will be ready to gain one more electron and thus it forms O minus ion readily. Now, when these two atoms combine together, their molecular formula we can find by crisscross method. What is that? First positive ion to be written, next followed by negative ion. Next, their common factors to be eliminated from their charges. As there is no common factor, we skip to third step. By neglecting their symbols, we crisscross these valencies. This will be written here, this will be written here. If it is 1, need not to mention. Now the molecular formula will be X1 Y2. Okay, here this is the molecular formula of the compound formed between X and Y. That is XY2. Where it is? Here it is. Okay, next. Observe the reaction shown below. Ammonium ion, ammonia and H plus ion combining together to form ammonium ion. Here NH4 plus has, what does it have? What kind of bonds it is having? If you observe initially in the ammonia molecule, one nitrogen combined with three hydrogen atoms with three covalent bonds. When it is combining with H plus ion, it is forming newly a dative bond. Okay, with three hydrogen atoms, it is already formed here three covalent bonds. With the newly coming H plus ion, it is forming here a dative bond or coordinate covalent bond. What we can say, NH4 plus has three polar covalent bonds and one coordinate covalent bond. This is correct because these are formed between two different atoms. They are polar covalent bonds. So there are three polar covalent bonds and one newly formed coordinate covalent bond or dative bond. Okay. Next, which substance represents a molecule that can combine with a proton? That means the molecule or atom which has a lone pair of electrons on its central atom can combine with a proton or H plus ion. Observe the molecules given here which has a lone pair of electrons on its central atom. That is ammonia. Ammonia can combine with a proton to form NH4 plus ion like this. Because it has one lone pair of electrons and proton has one vacant orbital. So these two can combine to form a dative bond. Okay. Next, which kinds of bonding can be found in a sample of water? So if you see the water molecule, like this. Between the oxygen atoms and hydrogen atoms, there are covalent bonds, which we can say as polar covalent, because between these bonds, the hydrogen is having less electronegativity than oxygen, so they form a polar covalent bond. And between the water molecules, there exists hydrogen bonds also. So between the oxygen atom of one molecule and the hydrogen atom of another molecule, hydrogen bond also exists here. So what we can say now, in the water sample, there will be polar covalent bonds as well as hydrogen bonds. Okay, this will be correct. Next question. A triple bond is made up of. Suppose if you observe the molecule nitrogen, between two nitrogen atoms there exists a triple bond. In any bond, the one bond will be sigma bond, remaining bonds will be pi bonds. In any multiple bond, one bond will be formed between two atoms by the axial overlapping of atomic orbitals, which we say as sigma bond. Remaining bonds will be formed by the sidewise overlapping of atomic orbitals, which we say as pi bonds. So in a triple bond now, we can say one will be sigma bond and the remaining two are pi bonds, where it is 1 sigma and 2 pi bonds. So this is correct answer. Next one, a pi bond is formed by the overlap of. Yeah, just now I told a sigma bond will be formed by the overlapping of atomic orbitals on their axis of nuclei. That we say end to end or head on head overlapping. That is called sigma bond formation. If atomic orbitals, if they overlap sidewise, that is called laterally, perpendicular to their axis of nuclei, they result in the formation of pi bond. So generally, p orbitals they participate in the pi bond formation. So when pp orbitals overlap laterally, then they result in the formation of pi bonds, where it is here. pp orbitals, when they overlap laterally, that is called sidewise, then they result in the formation of a pi bond. Okay, next. Which of the following contains both polar and non-polar bonds? Yes, if you observe in the ammonia molecule, between the nitrogen and hydrogen, there is a polar covalent bond. Because between nitrogen and hydrogen, nitrogen is being more electronegative, polar covalent bond will be created between them. So it contains only polar covalent bonds. If you see HCN, between the carbon and nitrogen, there exists a polar covalent bond, because between these two, nitrogen is more electronegative. And between carbon and hydrogen also, there exists a polar covalent bond, because between carbon and nitrogen, carbon is more electronegative and hence polar bond will be formed. So only polar bonds. If you see in case of methane, here also between carbon and hydrogen there exist only polar bonds, because carbon is more electronegative than hydrogen. But if we see in case of hydrogen peroxide molecule, between the oxygen atoms there exists a non-polar covalent bond, because it is formed between two similar atoms. Both will be having same electronegativity and hence results in the formation of non-polar covalent bond. And each oxygen forms a covalent bond with one hydrogen atom. This is a hydrogen peroxide molecule. If you observe the bond here between hydrogen and oxygen, hydrogen is less electronegative than oxygen and hence this will be polar covalent. This is not polar covalent. This is a non-polar covalent. Again, this is polar covalent. Okay. In this way, hydrogen peroxide molecule has polar as well as non-polar covalent bonds. Okay. This is correct answer. Next, the distance between the nuclei of the two covalently bonded atoms is defined as. What do we call the distance between the two nuclei of the atoms which are participating in the covalent bond? That is called bond length. Okay. Next, see the statement 1 in this question. Elements which lose electrons are called electropositive elements. Yes. The atoms which are ready to lose electrons and hence they form positive ions are called electropositive ions. Electropositive element. Generally metals are electropositive elements. Second statement, elements which can gain electrons are called electronegative elements. Yes, this is also correct. Elements which are ready to gain electrons, they are ready to gain they gain electrons and they form negative ions. So those elements which are ready to gain electrons are called electronegative elements. Generally, non-metallic elements are electronegative in nature. So these two are both correct statements, but it is not explaining the first one. So both the statement 1 and 2 are correct, true. Statement 2 is not the correct explanation of state 1. This is correct answer. Okay, both are correct statements only, but it is not explaining this. Both are individually correct, right? So thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe our YouTube channel AIMS Today for latest updates on recorded videos. Please visit our website aimstoday.in for further information.